Hey guys, so February was such a great month for me. I read some fantastic books and my channel hit 500 subscribers. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. So hi, my name's Talia. I love books. I love bandanas. I'm so glad you're at my channel today. February was really exciting. I've been kind of hanging in like mid 400s for a while as far as my channel goes, which I try not to be too concerned about the numbers. I've been on YouTube almost 2 years and it's like, we know this ain't gonna be some great big show, right? But it's still exciting when your channel sees growth. So I released a middle grade March video in the month of February, and that video kind of took off compared to my normal videos. So got quite a few views, and as a result, my subscribers were growing, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at this, I'm getting kind of close to 500. Like, wouldn't it be close if I hit that goal? And then two of my favorite booktuber upperclassmen shouted out my channel. So Read by Fred and Farah at Bookstalgic shouted out my channel on their community tabs, and that really just like pushed it over the top, and I hit 500, and I was just so excited about that. When I started my channel almost 2 years ago, like I never would have thought that 500 people would click subscribe to view my random content. So definitely shed a tear or two of joy. Really thank you so much, Fred and Farah, just for like seeing my channel and giving me support. Like that was just so fun and made me feel so good. So here we are, pressure's on. I'm a big YouTuber now. Here we go. So today I'm going to be talking about the books I read in February. I finished 5 books. 3 of them were 5 stars and 2 of them were 4 stars. So let's jump into it. The first one I want to talk about is The Feather Thief. And you guys, this is one of those books that is nonfiction, but you're like, this cannot possibly be true. Like, it's just such a random like world that this book dives you dive into when you're reading this book. So The Feather Thief covers the story of Edwin Rist. Edwin, on an evening in June, I think it was, 2009, breaks into this natural history museum north of London. He breaks into it with this big suitcase and he steals 299 dead birds. True story. Steals these birds, take them back to his apartment, and this is the story of that. So again, such a random story, but like I learned so much from this book. So we cover obviously the story of Edwin Rist and his crime and how he got caught. Then we kind of take a deep dive into the history of these exotic birds that he stole, because they were like birds of paradise, like super fancy, beautiful birds that he stole. And we kind of take a deep dive into history where the explorers like Charles Darwin, Alfred Russel Wallace, that explorer too, was like doing the explorations for these birds and discovering the species. And then we kind of take a dive into like when feathers were really popular and like the Victorian ladies would be like wearing legit like birds on their heads. Like, so we kind of take this like journey through history on the history of feathers, and then we get to the current reason people use exotic feathers, which is for fly tying, which is the reason why Edwin Rist decides to go steal these birds, because he wants the feathers to like tie like fishing flies, not to use them for fishing, just to like have them. And there's this whole crazy like cult following of like these fly fishermen who like need all these little feathers and like spend thousands of dollars like getting these little feathers to tie these flies that are really intricate and take like hours to tie, and just craziness, like craziness. So it's also the story of our author Kirk Wallace Johnson, who finds out about Wrist, like kind of while he's in his sentencing processing. And he's just like, what? Like, this is crazy. Why did these kids steal this? Why did this kid steal these feathers? And he kind of embarks on a journey of trying to figure out, number one, like, why did this happen? And he kind of wants to understand the history, so that's where we get that part of the book. But then he kind of goes on an adventure and an investigation to try to come up with what happened to all the birds, because when they catch Wrist, they don't find all the birds. So this book was just so enjoyable. I read this with Dia over at Novel Idea, and we both really liked it. And we had a couple chapters a day, so every day we were like leaving messages to each other about what was going on in the book. And I will say it was a very enjoyable experience. This book was 5 stars. Definitely recommend it. And again, just such a random nonfiction. Like, if you told me a year ago, like, hey, there's this great book about this guy who stole birds, you'd just be like, what? Like, what? Is that a good book? But I really enjoyed it a lot. I learned a lot just about natural history and yeah, just the fly tying community and feathers and just all sorts of stuff. I thought it was really well done. So definitely recommend that one. It was so good. Okay, another 5-star I read. I actually just finished this one. Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. This is the first book I've read by Mandel, and I already want to read everything else that she wrote. I really enjoyed this. So this was actually my book club pick for this month. It was my turn to pick, and we haven't had our meeting yet. So I'm not going to say too much about this because I want to honor like the Sacred Book Club and talk about it mostly there first. But look, you can see how many tabs I have. I have to lead discussion. So like every time I would find something interesting, I'd be like, we should talk about that, and we should talk about that. Really good. So this is like part historical fiction. Like, it starts in the early 1900s, and then it kind of jumps to like the late 1900s, and then it kind of jumps to like the year 2100, and we're like living on the moon, and then it like jumps a couple hundred years more. So it spans this like long period of time. There's time travel involved. I feel like this was just like a perfect sci-fi because it wasn't too deep, wasn't too crazy, flowed well, but also just made you think like, oh my gosh, like what if that really happened? Like, what? I don't know. It was really good. So I'm gonna leave it there. Already someone posted in my booktube chat that they didn't like it, so I'm like, oh no. So I hope at least one other person liked it, because I thought this book was amazing. So let me know in the comments if you have any particular feelings about this one, because I'm super curious. Okay, the last 5-star I read was Romanov by Nadine Brands. And this was such a fun read as well. So this was an audiobook that I listened to. And this covers, like, it's historical fiction about the Romanov family, which was this family that was in power in Russia. Spacing on the years now, was it the 1800s? I don't know. I can't remember the timeline now, but a real family who was taken out of power by their government. And this kind of tells the story of them. And basically it is it's from the perspective of one of the daughters as they're like taking captivity and being guarded by all these like Russian soldiers. And yeah, there's a little bit of magic involved. And I will say, if you are struggling like with forgiveness at all, which I know we all do at certain points of our life, there's stuff that happens to us that's just like hard to forget, hard to forgive. This book tackled like the concept of forgiveness like head on. Like, stuff happens in this book that you're like, that is unforgivable, that would never be okay with me. And like Nadine really like writes it into the characters, like wrestling with these feelings of forgiveness and like just kind of tackling like the benefit of forgiving. And I just thought it was so well done. Yeah, so historical fiction, but with some magic mixed in, and definitely like strong topics of forgiveness. Really liked that. That's another author now. That was my first book by Nadine Brands, and I was like, I'm gonna need to read everything she wrote too, because I just thought it was so enjoyable. So definitely recommend that one as well. Okay, now to the 4 stars. The 4 stars weren't bad. Like, they were decent. They were not, like, over the top. Like, those first 3 books, I, like, can tell I'm feeling the excitement just talking about them again. But 2 more that I read. So I read The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This was decent. I read this as a group read over with Chatty the Mad Chatter. And I liked it. This is like kind of like an Aladdin retelling, and so many times when I was reading this, I literally was picturing like Aladdin and Jasmine, like from the Disney movie, you know, and like Abu, and like the author, I really think like she has to have put some of the lines in this book were like straight out of the movie. Like, do you trust me? I was like, Aladdin, like I think she had to have done it purposefully, like the way she wrote some of it, which I really liked. I felt like it maybe was a little bit long. So I really liked it. I liked the characters. We have like, they're basically going on this journey for this missing lamp at one point. So I liked like the adventure aspects. I felt like at times it was a little bit more like action-y than I usually like to read. There was a lot of like sword fights and like running and jumping and falling in sand, and for me it was a little bit hard to follow at times, and it felt like a lot. It felt like we're on this journey, but the author was like, well, okay, now we need a bunch of action scenes, so let's like shove in all these ways to make action scenes and like make it really exciting. And for me, like, I was enjoying so much more like just the story and the characters and like some of the magical elements and like a little bit of action, but I felt like it was a bit overdone. So yeah, almost like, I did like the ending. I thought the ending was done really well, so that probably pushed it up to the 4 for me. And a couple others. Like, there was times when I was literally like chills on my arms. I was like, whoa, I was not expecting that. So it was an enjoyable read. This is the first in a trilogy, I think. And the next one is coming out, I think not until 2025. I think they just released. So, yeah, I think I will read that at some point, but I'm glad it's not coming out like right away, because if it was coming out like next month, I would be like, no, I need a break. Do you know what I mean? So yes, liked it. If you like the desert adventure vibes, this would be one for you. For me, it was fine. Another book that I read in February that was a 4-star. This was an audiobook. It was Butter Sugar Magic, Baking Up a Magical Midlife by Jessica Rosenberg. And I chose this book merely for the cover. I don't even remember where I found it. I was like browsing somewhere and I was like, oh, that looks cute. So this is a book about a woman who is going through a divorce. She gets a call that she has this like aunt that has passed away who left her in her will. So she goes with her young daughter, like preteen, early teenage daughter, to this town far from her home to figure out what's up with this will. And she finds out that she has inherited this bakery. And pretty soon after that, she discovers that she not only has inherited a bakery, but she also has magic baking abilities. So, man, this book was like cheesy at times, but it was such like a great escape, because who in there, like, we can call me middle-aged now. I'm turning 40 this year, so we can call me middle-aged. But like, who wouldn't like just like such a drastic change of pace to be like one day living a normal life and going through a divorce and sad and depressed and worried about the future, to like having a bakery and magical abilities, right? Like, it was cute. It was fun. It's one that I don't know, like, there's more in the series and my library doesn't carry them, so I'm not going to spend money and hunt these out at this point of time. But if you have access, like, this was a really cute, fun story. And her daughter ends up having like animal magic, so she can like has the vibes with the animals, and it was cute. It's like this small town where everyone else has magical vibes too. Yeah, I thought it was cute. It was a solid 4-star. So that is what I read this month. What did you read? How was your February? Today's March 1st, so I'm doing a pretty deep dive into middle grade March starting today. But also, I haven't finished this one yet this month, and this is gonna be a 5-star too. So I'm reading Micro by Michael Crichton. I started this as an audiobook actually, even though I have the hard copy, because I was driving to meet a friend like a couple hours away, and I needed a book quickly, and I was just searching in my library app like, what should I read? And it's like, I'll just see what Michael Crichton has available on audio. And Micro was available, so I started listening to that, and I am fully sucked in. Michael Crichton really can do no wrong in my eyes. I've never read a book by him that I didn't like. So this is going really well. This, like, picture, remember that movie from the 90s, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids? Picture that, but like way more sciencey and interesting, and yeah, really enjoying it. So I'm sure I'll be doing like a full wrap-up of this sometime in the future, and it'll be kind of nice because last year when I did middle grade March, I felt kind of burnt out by the middle grade at the end of it. So I think like weaving this in and out, because this is not anywhere close to middle grade. This book makes you use your brain a little bit. Not that middle grade doesn't make you use your brain. Middle grade does make you use your brain, but the language sometimes in middle grade is not as advanced scientifically as the language in here. So I think this will be really good. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. I hope you take some time today to read a good book or two. And if you are having a bad hair day, just wear a bandana. Bye.